Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Welcome to another episode of Psychonaut Sessions. This is your host Daniel Moeller, and I'm here with the one and only
Aaron Conaway.
Aaron.
That's me.
That is him. The great author, the great artist of Jan the Vagabond, Waking the Weaver, Before the Weaver, Tales for Halloween. I mean,
I list some of your accomplishments.
your portfolio
Diamond
is
Myth.
getting so extensive I can't breathe all the way through it. So that's an amazing feat.
Well, thank you. Back at you
Yeah.
with your list of projects.
Yeah, I talk about them all the time on my channel, so we can highlight you for a second. This is our first official episode of our Ultraverse line of comic reviews, comic walkthroughs. Everybody wants to
Rereads.
kick off that we filmed recently. Yeah, we wanted to go through Ultraverse titles, and today we're tackling the very first one in the official Marvel fandom reading order, Strangers #1.
Here we go. Chronology.
Here we go. Yeah, so this isn't publication order. This is like chronology order, right? So, of like the way the story folds out, because Ultraverse is very succinct in terms of its continuity. What's interesting about this cover, just from straight off, Strangers #1, it's like their flagship team book, like their Avengers or whatever you want to call it, or maybe their X-Men, I don't know. Is
Definitely Avengers.
Yeah, many of their Ultraverse covers had like a different artist. Like Walt Simonson did Freaks, Dave Gibbons did Hard Case, but they didn't do the actual artwork in the inside. This one's done by the actual artist Rick Hoberg.
That's cool. I didn't even pay attention to that.
Yeah, which is he did some work at Marvel and DC, nothing huge. I think he did more work at DC than he did Marvel. Not any large runs, but he's a good, solid artist. So, any thoughts on the cover before we dive in and kind of flip through the story?
I mean, I dig the cover. After having read the first issue, there's one person there that doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but I also get why they're included because eventually it'll make sense. So.
Yeah,
But otherwise, I mean, it's dynamic. It's what you want for a issue 1 of a team book.
yeah. I mean, I think one thing we can say is that the cover for Strangers #1 and maybe even Strangers #2 are spoilers for the story, really.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
mind so much with issue 1, but issue 2, yeah,
yeah, because then it's like, you know, you don't know in this issue that they actually end up coming together as a team. You don't see costumes. You don't know who this person is, like at the end of the first issue. So it's just kind of interesting that they kind of set it up that way. But it's a great drawing.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mentioned before, the color really popped. I want to say one more thing because I really loved this about the Ultraverse books. I loved the border because it made them pop out of the stands than the other books. Now it's funny is the publishers actually didn't really even care for the borders much, and they got rid of them after a while. But I loved them.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that I don't even know that I see it. Like,
Really?
I might react different. Like, it might be a factor if it was gone, but until you pointed it out, I don't know that it did anything for me. But I mean, it may have. Maybe that's the design. Like, maybe it wouldn't have popped as much without it. I don't know.
Yeah, I dug it. So we'll see as we go through the other issues.
Right.
All right, so let's just see how we can get through this fairly easily without taking. But anytime you want to pause, let me know. Okay.
Right. Okay.
So immediately we got an ad where they're kind of stroking their own here. They're immediately putting out trading cards and stuff and advertising their own shit. And we've got a writer, so Rick Hoberg's penciler we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Steve Englehart is the writer. So DC, Marvel, he did an excellent Defenders run with Sal Buscema back in the 70s. So Steve Englehart's like a heavy hitter. He's a big guy. All right, so all of this takes place, it looks like, in San Francisco. We're in California. We've got a trail car. What are these called again? Damn it. Help me.
Like a rail car?
Rail car,
Trolley?
trolley going through. And there's a lot of verbiage, a lot of the kind of the same verbiage really about the winds coming off of the Pacific Ocean a bunch.
Right. Well, and it's set at the era, like when it came out too. So it's 93.
Yeah. Yeah.
I when I was a kid, I found that fascinating. As an adult, it dates it a ton.
Yeah.
Like whenever they do that. I mean, you see it in movies all the time too, where it's like, the event that they just showed you took place in 1945, and then it'll say present day, and it's like, wow, 45 was a long ass time ago. Whenever I watched this, so yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where they don't harp on it, so I mean that's cool, but context clues later, I was like, okay, so this is 93.
Yeah, yeah. So we just get some like fodder of people in this passenger car, this trolley going through, and we get introduced to really the primary characters from the outset. These are some of the main ones here. They're all kind of just basic character types, except we do get this like rich dude who's like fondling this like girl who seems to enjoy it. But the other passengers are like, this is gross. And so a couple of the passengers, or a few of them, are like, all right, let's throw this guy off. So they just throw this guy off the passenger car, and the security guard's like, yep, thanks, dudes.
Well, and that 2-page spread, like, I do remember even reading it back in the day. I wasn't, you were more versed in non-mainstream, quote unquote, like Big Two stuff than me at around this time. I'd read some, but so this was one of the few instances where I came across panel layouts spreading out over the 2-page and not having it just be broken down into yeah. And so I remember as a kid being like, wow, that's kind of cool. Now, I mean, it's nothing spectacular now, but it was remarkable when I was 16 when I read this.
Yeah,
17.
I mean, that's a notable thing. The Big Two were very rigid in terms of like what you could structurally have on each page.
Right.
And independent publishers were really big on trying to just like, let's play with this a little bit. Let's have a little fun with the layouts.
Yeah. And the other thing on that page is I keep waiting until you turn it before I think of something, but as far as the writing goes, I actually like it was a little heavy-handed with the rich dude, like, yeah, I'm a douchebag and I'm just gonna treat this woman like a piece of meat and I'm rich, it doesn't matter. That was a little heavy-handed, but I actually liked from a storytelling aspect of like getting to know how these two buddies are, Hugh and Bob, in their interactions. Like their little look at each other like, yeah, we're gonna do this, right? Yep. And then they just chuck him and the other dude helps. And so from a writing standpoint, I actually liked like they did some nonverbal with as much verbiage as on that first page. I like that they did some character development.
Oh yeah.
Or if not development, but like showcasing with nonverbal cues. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And also just, so far Hoberg's art just solid all around.
Yeah.
Not like amazing and like different, but just solid storytelling.
Yeah.
And so then when they throw this guy off the comic went out of screen there. The trolley car gets hit by some bolt of energy or lightning or something. And this is it. This is the event that spurs everything, and just cool splash page, very well timed in that you have to flip the page to get to that, because some people make that mistake. But also, like, think of it, this is like, what, 93? This coloring, it's computer coloring. And in 93, that's like really good, because people just did not have computer coloring down at that time. Even some of the image guys oversaturated their shit. And this is really well done.
I agree.
So props to the coloring department. And then of course after
Paul
that,
Mounts was color designed.
yeah, huh? Who? What?
Paul Mounts was color designed.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Paul. Actually, it turns out in my listening, some of these names are invented. It was like a team of colorists, and they sometimes would like
Oh,
invent.
really?
Yeah, they would sometimes make up like names to put on for like with their
That's cool.
specific team. But that could have been an actual guy, but just FYI. Sorry. So the trolley gets out of control. It starts careening down and it runs into a car that's driving by, which ends up kind of stopping it in its tracks. And so not a ton is happening here other than everybody's just trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of just words of like, who, what, who, the rich guy comes back and he's like, hey, chick. Okay, that's one thing. None of the names of these characters ever stuck with me. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, so you might have to help me with that.
Okay.
But he basically tells this chick, hey, you need to come with me. What the hell? And he's like, I'm going to sue you guys for throwing me off and everything. And she's suddenly like looking at him like, oh, you are a douchebag. What the hell? And then she takes off. And of course, as she takes off, she has like lingerie underneath, and all the dudes around her are like, "Oh, ha, ha, ha."
Right.
It's like, oh, so 90s. And then we get like our first. So the car that they hit has a dude who's got a piece of shrapnel in his mind, in his brain, and he's like unconscious. And he's like, out of all of these people, one of the only ones that has to go to the hospital. That is actually our preview into Nightman in the future.
Yep.
That's
little cameo.
Yeah. So that,
Johnny Domino.
Johnny Domino. I'm trying to watch that show, dude. That TV show because it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I remember when it aired, and I remember it was one of those where it's like, oh my god, there's like, we were so starving for other media attention in comics that at the time I was like, that's amazing, and then I watched it and I was like, that's not amazing.
It's amazing in so many ways.
Yeah, but in a so bad it's good way. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So we get our ads for Freaks and Mantra. I was totally excited for both. Like just couldn't wait for either one of them. So anything you want to say on these before we move?
Freaks I never anticipated it. I mean, when we get to it, I'll know if I read it or not. I don't even remember reading it. Mantra, I did. I was like, oh wow, looks fantasy. This sounds cool. With the going off of these ads,
it's like some kind of like Immortal Warrior Highlander kind of shtick where this like warrior gets reincarnated.
Right.
He dies to keep fighting this like evil force. But he's always reincarnated into a male form, and then suddenly, for some reason, gets incarnated into a female form, but he's male. So,
right.
Like dealing with the fact that he's like this hot like chick, but it's a guy in the body. Like it was like that's such a fucking cool concept.
It was. I do remember though. Like that's one thing that is sparking memories. Is I do remember at the time being like, I get it. You're a dude. Like every issue, it was like they had to address again. I'm a man, I'm a manly man. I was like, okay, I know.
Yeah. Embrace your inner feminine, my man. All right. So now we're getting like after the bolt of energy that's hit this trolley car, everybody's given their witness statements to the police and everything. They go off into their lives. And so now we're getting like little segments into their lives. So first we get this particular woman whose name's Elena, and she's a fashion designer, and she suddenly starts getting inspiration to start building costumes. And this is the first glimpse of a costume that we get even within the first couple issues.
Yeah.
Just FYI. And then we get a glimpse of those two dudes who you're talking about, Bob and Hugh, and they're art students at the San Francisco.
Art students.
Yeah, Art Institute. So it's interesting that like 3 out of like all of these people are artists in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, that's true.
And that's their only background. But they start noticing that they have like weird powers. So Bob starts just manifesting things, just like he had a portfolio in his hands and it changed into a bag of apples.
Yeah, he transforms everything.
Transforms stuff, like he transforms matter from one state to another or something like that. And then Hugh starts blowing up, basically. He starts like exuding shrapnel all over the place. So they're both just like, whoa, what the fuck is going on?
Well, and one of those powers are much cooler than the other. Like, I can transmutate anything into anything. Well, presumably, I guess at this point I don't know, what the upper levels of their powers can do, but like I can change this into food, and you can blow up. Like
I can shoot shrapnel out of my chest.
Right. If we're gonna go fight crime, yours is cool, but if we're gonna remain art students, it's not all that useful.
I'm gonna make you apples.
Right.
He turned the shrapnel into rosebuds. Yeah,
like instantaneously too. So that's pretty cool.
I do agree with you that like the interaction and the communion between those two as friends established is felt. It's a good. Even though they're both just like basic white guys, it's still like you get a sense they have a history and they have distinct personalities. And then we're moving on to this other fella who happened to be the guy who helped them throw the rich dude off. And his name's Dave, and he's a baker. I don't know. And he's interacting with this like Italian dude who he gives some bread to, and then he suddenly flames on.
Yeah, he does.
And that he's just like, holy shit, what the hell happened? Just basically burst into green flame. And we don't know anything yet. And then we get Leon. So it's this kid who kind of is mixed up with some of these bad dudes and doesn't want to get mixed back up with them. And he tries to get away and boom, finds out he's like a speedster. He can like run however fast.
Yeah, super speed. Well, and that's the first of the like 90s trappings for me of like, he's a black kid, so he's tied up with the local gangs, dealing drug. Like, it's very 90s. Like, you couldn't be a black kid without having just the shittiest hand dealt to you.
Like, why is he like mixed up with the gang and like it's so fucking stereotypical. Yeah.
Right. Well, in San Francisco too, like, which I guess that was refreshing. Like, at least it wasn't a New York. I'm from Brooklyn, whatever. Like you saw all the time in 90s Marvel stuff, but like it was still, it's San Francisco, man. Like, okay. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass. Like, as far as I know, maybe it was just as bad there as it was in New York in the 90s.
Aaron's like reliving the Haight Ashbury days of the 60s. He's like, where's the hippies, man? So yeah, anyway, I mean, I like the kid though. I like the energy he brings. He's like fun and excited about shit, and
right.
The book really needs that. And so I do.
Well, he's the one that reacts most closely to how I would have reacted. Like, everybody else is like, oh man, what? And he's the one that geeks out about, hell yeah, I'm fast.
Like, this is fucking cool, guys.
Yeah.
And then we go to this woman who's just walking around in lingerie, and it's kind of weird and it seems kind of gaudy, but you start understanding why she's just kind of randomly walking around in her lingerie. And we get a glimpse of it here. She accidentally cuts herself and then finds out that there's like circuitry under her skin. So
yeah, for an android, she has no spatial awareness.
Yeah.
She just walks into a trash can.
You can't perfect the AI. And then
she did just get struck by lightning, so that's fair.
There you go. I mean, and so then we actually get to that millionaire dude whose name's J.D. Hunt, and he's kind of like talking about her. He's kind of talking about she's not doing what she was programmed to do. Like, she was supposed to just let me do whatever I wanted to her, and she's having second thoughts, and they're like, wait a minute, that's not what she was. So you get the sense like something. So he had this android who's basically a sex bot or whatever, and it's basically rebelling against him. And then we get an ad for Jim Lee doing some shit here, man. What the hell?
Ultraverse number 0.
Ultraverse number 0. So I I did not. I did not get the coupon for this, man. Like you had to buy all of this shit and send in all of these coupons to get Ultraverse number 0.
Yeah.
I did not do
But
that.
I mean, Jim Lee's name then, well, and arguably to some now, was enough that, that's a guarantee I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I bet there was a ton of people that did it. I just didn't have the resources at that time. Plus, I was like, Malibu
Yeah.
Sun? What the fuck is Malibu Sun? We're not getting Malibu Sun in Springfield, Missouri.
All right. Follow these directions carefully.
I know. It's like you have to do, like, that's a lot of words for a 13-year-old to look at when you're in the comic, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, plus the idea of like cutting a coupon out of my, like, this is the peak speculation era. It's like, I'm not cutting this up, so I had to buy 2 copies.
So many comics were like that too. It's like cut this, and like posters and like that were in as part of the comic. It's like, how I can't take this out. What the hell?
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose millions.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And so then we got to an interesting part of the story that I don't fucking recall at all. I don't remember this at all, but it's this old man and his nurse that lives with him, or just like nurses him at home. And
Right. Well, he was like about to die, so I assumed she was like a hospice nurse.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but there's this whole side story. They were on the car and they got affected somehow, and you don't really know how they got affected, other than he was dying from cancer and he's starting to feel good, and she's just starting to feel like shitty.
Yeah.
And you don't know really what's going on, and so it's like, ooh, they're like building a side story along the way, and this is fun. And then here's our Johnny Domino, and they're basically saying the shrapnel stuck in his head, he's in a coma, ra-ta-ta-ta-ta. And then there's a reference to a cloud in the sky, and there shouldn't be any clouds in the sky because it's not the right season.
This was the second thing that, like, the first part with Leon wasn't like a, oh my god, what the, it was just like, oh, this is definitely 90s. This part was the first time I was like, wait, what? They don't have, it doesn't rain? I know it doesn't rain a ton, but they can say with authority, this is June, there's no rain.
Well,
then, like,
it's not
no
even that.
clouds.
It's just like there should be no clouds in the sky in June,
Right?
Ever. Like,
Yeah.
there's gotta.
Well, like the one line, somebody says the line, and it's too small. I can't see like when it happens, but I remember it because I made a note where they say it can't be a rain cloud. It's June.
Yeah.
No, it's like
it doesn't rain in June.
Yeah, and it's like, wait, what? And then they keep harping on the fact that what's that cloud? What's that cloud? There's no cloud. So that part was like, oh man, all right.
Yeah. So we cut back to God damn it, what's this guy's name? See, I can't remember.
Which guy?
Flame on.
Dave.
We cut back to Dave,
Castiglione.
and he's at the doctor getting checked out because he's like, I just burst in the flame, and the doctor's like, you might want to go see a priest, you know. But this is where we start getting the first semblance where Dave actually is gay, because they start talking about like AIDS and stuff. Like, it's like they were setting up here. Obviously, it's like, oh, they have a gay character. So, I mean, that's cool though. I mean, in the sense, in the 90s, it's like they were really trying to be versatile.
But much like a lot of things in the 90s, they're very heavy-handed about it. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
It's at this point anyway. It's really, if you discount what his powers are.
Yeah.
The only thing we know about him is that he's probably gay. They don't even explicitly say it. And again, it's the 90s. It's a product of its era. None of this is me, but even Leon's stuff, I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying that's one of the things where it dates to me like, oh, okay. We're trying to navigate how to approach this.
Yeah. I give them props for trying.
Sure.
For that time. I mean, there's no way like an Image book would have had like a gay character as one of their primary,
or at least not have that be the entirety of their character.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
because there is more to him than that. Like, he's, Oh, cool. So there's that. And then, but he hears on the radio. I don't know why this doctor has the fucking radio on when he's seeing.
I know. He's the most worthless doctor.
He's
I'm
back.
just jamming to the news right now, and you should go see a priest anyway. And it's like, what?
But he hears on the radio that there's this lady downtown that has supernatural powers or something, and she's causing a scene where the trolley car got hit. And so Dave's like, "Oh, I need to go check that out. Maybe will answer some of my issues." And the doctor's like, well, the doctor does tell him to stay away, to give him credit. But anyway. So downtown is the scene where this mystery lady is just, we don't really know what's happening. There's energy bursting forth. The cops are coming. They're trying to contain the scene. She's shooting them with energy, and she's just kind of sitting there looking like Storm, really. But she's
Storm
cool.
by way of Mardi Gras.
Yeah. I mean, she's cool looking, though.
Yeah.
And then you suddenly get boom. So you get the characters themselves coming into the scene to try to like interact, but she obviously is speaking another language. She doesn't speak English, so they can't understand each other. But they keep popping in to try to help. At least this kid's trying to help contain the situation so she doesn't hurt anybody else. So props to him. And
she opens fire on Hugh and Bob, right? Like,
Yep. She tries to shoot at them. And so we don't really know what her powers is. She kind of shoots them with energy here. She contains the kid with some kind of crystal thing. And then the fashion designer lady comes in. So I've got that. Here's where I have an issue, and I don't fucking understand anything that's going on. She starts coming in with clothes and like wrapping clothes around. And she makes a statement that her powers are she's able to hit any target that she sets her sights on.
Yeah.
So how are her clothes operating in such a way that normally operate? Like, it was like
why isn't she just hitting her in the throat with her scarf? Why is it wrapping around her scarf? Her throat?
Yeah. It just felt really weird to me. I don't understand her.
No, I'm with you. That was
and
there's another.
I was pretty good with all this. It did feel very condensed. Like there's a lot of action here being condensed down to such a few.
Well, and there's another part with Leon here in a second where that was it was less so because I like hers is just very broad. It's like I can hit anything I aim at. Okay, that's cool. But now you've changed what the things are doing. Yeah. Leon does something, and when we get there, I'll point it out, where I was like, it's very comic booky, and I mean, you see it done a ton and with other speedsters, but it's like, man, Leon learned fast all the ins and outs of things he could do.
Yeah. Well, so they start using some of their powers. The fashion lady scarfs her. I don't know. She gets knocked over. The Bob guy changes the crystal stuff into some kind of balloons that she falls into so she doesn't get hurt. He even manipulates the crystal stuff, but it starts wearing him out. Hugh tries to shoot. I don't know. I don't. It's a lot of stuff happening here. The kid knocks them over. The flame guy starts trying to come in and starts recognizing, oh, hey, my fire doesn't even melt ice. So he's starting to realize like the extent of his power. So it's a good scene in terms of like they're starting to figure out what's going on with their powers and what their limitations are or not. And then he discovers he actually can change colors, and that with each, and I think he actually finds this out later, but you kind of find out with each color there's like a different power, and each power has limitations too. He's not just like invulnerably like on fire all the time.
Then Candy comes back.
Yeah, so Candy comes back. Help me out here. She does a lot of thinking, obviously.
Yeah. Decides that she's gonna help out.
Yeah, and she screams out. She cries, which is weird because she's an android. I think she's just figuring out, oh, since I got hit by that bolt, I have like consciousness. Before I was just
Right.
like a robot. Now I'm like I have intelligence, and I was able to see that that guy was using me, and he's a douchebag, and I want to help people, you know.
Right.
So that's what the bolt of lightning actually did to her. So she says, "Stop that, you!" And she does have some kind of electrical power. She shoots. And they all start trying to lay it on this lady, wrapping her with scarves. I don't know what he's doing with her foot, but he's like preventing her from moving or something.
It's like trying to anchor it somehow.
Yeah. But it's still not enough. They all try to trap her at once using all their power somehow, and she still manages to kind of get away. Nice shot.
Sure. Well, yeah, art wise, I've got, yeah, there's no, I don't really don't have any complaints art wise.
My only complaints is that it's really condensed. The panels are just really tightly woven together, and there is like a few scenes like here. I was like, wait a minute, what's happening with Bob's arm? Like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, that's Hugh's arm. Like, there was a few places where he just didn't line things up so easily that you could fully tell what was going on, just because there's so much going on in each panel.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he's competent. He's a very competent artist.
Yeah.
So she takes off. They still don't have any idea what's going on. And then, is it Leon, the boy?
Yeah.
Leon sees the cops coming and is like, well, we don't want to deal with the cops. And then does like kind of a tornado.
That's the part where I was like, damn, Leon's like, because I mean, you're right. They do a good scene with Dave where he's like, oh wow, my powers can do this, and like, but Leon's the exact opposite. We don't see him figure stuff out. He just seems to know, like, I can go really fast, pick everybody up, and we'll get out of here on a cyclone.
I mean, maybe Steve Englehart's trying to say something about youth. And that in youth, you're ballsy, you just go for it and you do it. In adult,
well, and for all I know, because I don't remember, some of this stuff's addressed later. Like, for all I know, yeah, there's a reason why
maybe
Leon is quick at the draw and Dave is not. And
I will say one thing that hasn't been dated in this at all is as Leon whips them all up in a tornado to take them away, he hollers, "Hasta la vista, baby." That's not dated.
That's not dated at all.
At all. Okay. So whips them away to another space. They're just basically sitting around figuring out what's happening, and of all the stuff that we've been talking about, they're like putting all the pieces together, like who we are, what's going on. He figures out that he can fly when he's yellow. Dave. Hugh is always making comments towards the android.
He's the hornball, yeah.
The hornball, of course. But you do get a sense this fashion design lady that she's actually more of the leader. So even though in the cover this guy is in the forefront, so you think, oh, he's the leader, but she's actually being the one that's like, hey, look, like I'm rich. I got a jet. There's a cloud in the sky that's not supposed to be there. Like, we should go fly into the cloud in the sky. You know, and she's just kind of like keeping people corralled and stuff. And so that was kind of cool. But that was about it. I mean, I don't know that any of this has any relevant context of anything that we need to discuss or talk through, unless you have any.
No, I mean, as far as an origin issue, it was mostly good. Like, it was, particularly at the time, like, I didn't have a ton. I mean, all the big teams I read were decades old at the time I read them, so seeing one form was always cool still. I mean, I hadn't gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I've seen this already. I
liked that, like, oh, it's like, it's not over. Like, they're not a team yet. They're still just like kind of figuring out who they are. They don't even have costumes. They're like, so I kind of liked that aspect.
Yeah. Now, as far as things I paid attention to now that I didn't as a kid, I was like, why, like, everybody can just drop at the drop of a hat, go back downtown. Like, does Leon not have anybody that's like, where the hell's my kid? And like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Bob and Hugh, they were in school, but did they? I mean, presumably they didn't just go to class after they discovered, hey, I can transmute things. Hey, I can explode.
Yeah.
Like they just made their way downtown, and for the most part, all that's fine. It was just little nitpicks of like, wow, we're just gonna follow this thread. And I mean, she's clearly from Elena's scene. She has a ton of people that like need her there to make decisions, and yet she just bounced.
Yeah,
and
like whatever. Yeah.
So
yeah.
all things that I didn't care about as a kid. Do what?
It's kind of convenient in the way it follows. How about that entertainment this month, man? Remember when we used to order and get our shit from there? That like seeing this like in a comic every month like was like the bread and butter. It's like how when you lived in a small town in the 80s and 90s, like this is how you got your shit.
Yep. You couldn't rely on making it in time. Well, and it was before there was any kind of, or at least I didn't know of a pull list. There wasn't a pull list at the comic store. Like I would just go on Wednesdays and try to get whatever they put on the shelf.
Yeah, got what you could. Yeah.
So that was the only way to guarantee, hey, it's going to come to my house.
Yeah. Nothing really in terms of editorial. They just try to.
Well, the only thing I noticed in the editorial, so there is a discrepancy within the story, and I'm assuming within the story is what's right. But in the story, they say 59 people were on the car, and in the letters page it says 52.
Oh yeah, and here it says, "Don't take my word from it. Here's what the creators on Hardcase have to say." And then it's the creators of Strangers, Steve Englehart and Rick Hoberg. It's like, Chris Ulm, you didn't do your job as editor, buddy. I'm not knocking you, Chris Ulm. I have great respect for you, actually. Respect. Hero Illustrated, I really love that magazine. It was like it was like the other wizard, and I was like all for anything that was like just more, just give me more.
Sure.
Did you ever get
Super
this?
Nintendo? No, I knew people that had it, and I was envious, but
I never got it either.
I didn't get a Super Nintendo until after I graduated high school, so.
Ouch. God, way to date yourself. Jesus Christ. All right, Strangers #1. So overall thoughts. You satisfied? You in? Are you still in?
Yeah, I'm definitely still in. I'm intrigued. I remembered, like, some of it was coming back to me as I read it. You know, like, I kind of remember. I remembered what the third act was. I didn't remember how it played out exactly. Like I was gonna have little nitpicks about it, but I did remember, like, the chick on the cover shows up then, because like when she wasn't in the rail car, that's when I first was like, what is? Surely that's not Henrietta the nurse. What is going on?
Right.
And then then as I read, I was like, oh yeah, no, they fight her at the end, but then she's gonna end up good because she's part of the team, and so. But no, overall, I mean, does it affect my nostalgia for Ultraverse? No. So far, I'm still like, it was a huge impact on me, and I get it. I get why. So, What about you?
Yeah, I mean, totally. It's everything I want out of an Ultraverse book. I didn't remember a lot of it. I read it a long time ago, and I'm actually, like, as we're getting ready to get into the others, I realized, I didn't, like, pick up the rest of Strangers at all. So I don't remember why I didn't pick up the rest of Strangers at that time. I think I was just more primed for Prime, really wanting that. But, I mean, I like it. I wish I would have kept reading it. But goddamn, this dude's costume bugs the shit out of me. It's just horrible.
I mean, it screams 90s.
It's worse than that. It's like B-movie dystopian Earth sci-fi Mad Max sort of costume from the 80s. It's so bad. It's bad.
Yeah, but see, Hugh kind of exudes that to me. So that description is dead on. But
they're very accurate. That would be Hugh's costume, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
no. I mean, it's a little embarrassing since he's supposed to be an art student that he would like pull from there, but
Hey, not
you know,
art. Not
whatever.
all art is about design, dude. Not all art is.
That's fair. And you like what you like. So, but no, I'm excited to now read the things that I knew that I liked better back
Yeah.
then. Since I liked this fine. I think I only got the first half dozen of Strangers, if that. Just because I didn't like it, you know, as a kid. Well, as a kid, I mean, at that age, I was damn near an adult. But you still, I only had so much money, so if I didn't love a thing, it would quickly get dropped.
Yeah.
And so I am excited to get into like the Prime and the other stuff that I sludge and hardcase that I did dig to see how that lands. Since this landed fair, like it's fun.
Cool. All right. Well, let's go off and buy issue 2 and give that a read and revisit this.
All right, we'll do it again next time.
Cool. Thanks, man. Everybody out there, buy mine and Aaron's stuff. I'll put links in the description. We make excellent things. And everybody out there, keep it psycho.